I'm now going to invite Mrs. Bridget Collins, if she would come and introduce our keynote speaker, past student of St. Andrew High School for Girls, Dr. Schontal Moore. Mrs. Collins?
Thank you, and good morning, all. It is my pleasure to introduce, and I'm going to give you a brief bio of our keynote. She is an education advisor for the Virtual University for the Small States of the Commonwealth, VUSSC, at the Commonwealth of Learning in Vancouver, Canada. With a career spanning educational technology, inclusive education, teacher development and educational leadership, and language and literacy, she's widely recognized for helping institutions and educators strengthen quality teaching and learning through online and blended approaches. Dr. Moore's work has been deeply rooted in the Caribbean, while also extending through the VUSSC to higher education contexts in Africa and the Pacific. She has led and supported institutional capacity building across the region, training faculty and curriculum teams to design, develop, and deliver effective online programs, and she helped lead professional learning that reached over 12,000 Caribbean educators in online and blended strategies in partnership with regional and international agencies. A former director of the Caribbean Center for Educational Planning and a tenured senior lecturer in the School of Education at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Dr. Moore has also served the region through examinations and quality assurance, including as chief examiner for the Cape Literatures in English. Dr. Moore has an impressive portfolio of research-based and scholarly publications, papers, honors, and awards. In 2023, it was her research activity in her role as project director at the Caribbean Center for Educational Planning that led her to receive the UWI's Principals Award for generating the most funds with the most developmental impact. Her publications even include one of an artistic nature in her poem titled Ice Cream Sundays in Adassa Palmer's 100+ Voices for Miss Lou Poetry Tributes, Interviews, and Essays. And I must add on a personal note that it was while Dr. Moore was at the University of the West Indies that I had the pleasure of working with her. When as director of the MEd Summer and Online Program, she led the administrative and academic team that pioneered the delivery of the multimodal postgraduate diploma in education program. The program was delivered from the Mona campus and offered across the region to very busy teachers in Bermuda, St. Lucia, Dominica, Montserrat, Belize, Grand Cayman, and Anguilla. The initiative was hugely successful and demonstrated the impact of technology in enabling access to higher education across the region. Dr. Moore holds a PhD in language education from UWI Mona, and a MEd in education technology and English language teaching from the University of Manchester, alongside advanced qualifications in education and English. To crown it all and to put the icing on the cake, Dr. Moore is a proud alumna of St. Andrew High School for Girls from first form in 1982 to upper sixth in 1989. And she loved the school so much that she returned in 1995 to serve as a teacher and senior staff up to 2001. We welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Schontal Moore.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Principal, members of the board and Centenary committee, past principals, teachers, parents, alumni, and most importantly, the students of St. Andrew High School for Girls. Good morning, St. Andrew High School family. All right. I must say that I'm so happy that I've been invited home. And I do not use the word home lightly, because St. Andrew High School is not merely a place on Cecilia Avenue. It actually wakes up resonances of a girl from a small community in rural St. Catherine entering the gates of an institution for the first time, timid and awestruck by the awesomeness of a beautifully big school she had only heard of by name, but loved the sound of it, enough to make it her first choice for her common entrance exam. And standing in the hall that day, the first day on this campus, I remember listening to Miss Joan Reeder. She was up here, and she was telling us that we should listen for names so that we'd know which form would be in, and we could accompany the prefix to whether it's 1A, 1N, 1P, 1X, 1S, or 1T. And we went with our school prefects, and we had our orientation that day, and we were welcomed into the St. Andrew High School family. I also have memories of the bell ringing and girls laughing and conversing and switching classes between the class periods and settling into classes taught by a variety of teachers, ranging from the sane to the idiosyncratic, yes, and deep memories of their style and their mission to educate. And I named some of them: Miss Myrtle White, Mrs. Yvette Booth Smith, Paulette Logan, Sharon Reed, Everton Cummins, Carolyn Dyche, Lorna Goodison, Miss Wong, Miss Beckford, Miss Forbes, Mrs. Gooden, Mrs. Edwards, Miss Roper, Miss Bryan, Miss Magnus, Miss Tyson, Mr. Zaka, and so many others. It's memories of us preparing for sports day, our cheerleading team practicing so that we can wow the community, later running our hearts out at sports day and contributing those much needed points to our houses, whether you're in Anderson, Ark, Cavell, Darling, Gardshire, Stockhausen. And I know that you felt proud to accomplish what you did for your houses when you were here. At St. Andrew High School, memories of nutrition are important. And I remember the canteen with its elaborate ticketing system where we'd purchase our tickets and would get into the cafeteria and would line up, and it would become a beehive of business with the girls talking and interacting and having lunch daily. Then we had those memorable events, the prize givings, the day dedicated to reflection, the PTA meetings, the morning devotions, the fetes. And I don't know if you remember the dollar block drive. Yes, to help to build the school. I remember we, going out on those walks to sell a chit almost for $1 to contribute to the building of St. Andrew High School under Miss Joan Reeder. But today, despite those memories, I stand here with gratitude as a daughter of this institution. First form in 82, as said, sixth form in 89, returned to teach in 1995. And today, I'm here before you as a daughter of this institution, but moving on to become one of those persons in the area of education, giving work and doing significant work across the Caribbean in terms of teacher development, curriculum, assessment reform, and those kinds of things, focusing a lot on educational technology and how that can impact learning. So that brings me to today's theme for my conversation with you. It's about navigating the digital age and how we rethink teaching, learning, and assessment. In fact, I was at the CXE conference this week. That was the theme for the conference. And I did a keynote at that conference. And so I'm taking resonances of that keynote and conference here today to speak to the St. Andrew High community. I, like so many other old girls sitting here, listening on, we can trace our personal and professional movements and attribute all of those to this institution that we call home. this institution now celebrates 100 years, and it will continue to be here for 100 more years and others to come. So today, as I look into Leading with Vision as my presentation, Empowering Futures, this is a good year to look towards how we're going to honor the inheritance, as well as look towards imagination. And I listened to Kiva imagining what the next cycle of education at St. Andrew High School will look like. And I agree with her that it is absolutely possible if we can just dream it and walk it into reality. So, my central claim today is that in an age of AI, artificial intelligence, empowerment will belong to those who build technological fluency and deep human capacity. I'll say it again, that in the age of AI, empowerment will belong to those students, those learners, those girls who build both their technological fluency and also focus on their deep human capacity. Not on one or the other, but on both. Yes, 100 years, that's a long time. From 1925, when we had 21 students, and now today, we are having over 1,500 students. That growth is not just about numbers. It represents a century of disciplined investment in girls' minds, their characters, their faith, and their future. From the beginning, the school's purpose was not narrow, and the founders that we've heard about, they spoke about the fourfold development of us girls, focusing on our physical, our mental, our spiritual, and our social development, so that we could serve this community worthily. The community beyond the physical spaces of 10 Cecilia Avenue. And so it's not only about passing exams, it's about preparing us for the real world. So the centenary question before us today is this one. What must we strengthen so that the next 100 years and more can produce St. Andrew High School women who are not only accomplished, but equipped to thrive, to adapt, and lead in a world being reshaped daily by AI. So we must treat it with a foundational question about learning. Yes, digital education is here, and definitely it seems to be taking over. But what we have to realize is that we have to interconnect digital education with human formation as a connected agenda. So digital education is not just about the screen, it is a system. It is when people imagine the devices that they can use, like the platforms, the smart boards, the online classes, those things. Those things are at the heart of digital education. But what we have to remember is that those things, they serve the purpose of teaching and learning. Those are tools, right? They allow us to access more. It allows us to foster inclusion for a variety of students with differences and exceptionalities. They support teachers. They definitely contribute to improved outcomes. But it is not so much the technology that we should focus our attention on. We should think about using technology for learning. Technology for learning. And so, because of that, we have to think about how we are going to now design the kind of an education that's going to be preparing our students for today and the future. AI certainly is already here. It is here. And so I want to talk to the students in the room directly about AI being here. Artificial intelligence is already part of your world. It will shape your career, the one that you imagine or can't even yet imagine. It will determine the kind of jobs that will emerge and that you will figure into, the ones that will disappear as well, how universities will teach, how employers will recruit, and how that knowledge will be produced and evaluated. Students, you have to think about how you're going to fit yourselves into that world of the new world of technology with AI. Teachers, let me talk to you also. It is already changing education. It is changing how students write, how they research, how they engage feedback, how they assess, and most importantly, it's impacting academic integrity. It has made it possible for students to generate work so quickly, even when they have not yet developed mastery of the content that has been generated. So the question then for the teacher is, how will you allow AI to enter into your classrooms? What will you confront it with, fear, drift, or vision? It's not about panicking. It's where you have to think about how you're going to guide your students, form them, and help them in redesigning and rethinking education so that they can appreciate what matters most. UNESCO says that we have to look at education as a human-centered approach in terms of when education meets AI. We have to think about how are we going to make sure that our policies, our pedagogy, and our ethics still stand strong in the face of AI. Technology certainly is racing ahead, and human tends to lag behind. But education cannot be made vulnerable, nor seem to be confused, thank you, or to perpetuate inequity or to seem superficial. Education has to thrive and strive even in the face of AI. So then, what are the greatest challenges or dangers in the moment of AI? The students can produce polished paragraphs, still not understand the argument. They can generate an answer, and they still haven't grasped the concept. The students, they can submit a project, and they can't defend it. And we're not saying that students should not engage with AI. They absolutely need to, because they have to have those competencies and skills and the knowledge for the world beyond the gates of 10 Cecilia Avenue. So that is why AI in this era is not only about technology, it's about trying to get students to ask themselves the questions, and teachers too, to probe. Does she understand? Can she explain? Can she apply? Can she judge? Can she create something that is truly her own? The poetess Eliot, he asked this question: where's the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where's the knowledge we have lost in information? That question is urgent now, because AI can generate information at an astonishing speed, but information is not understanding, and understanding is not wisdom. So in this era that we are, the digital era, our task is to protect the difference between fast output and deep understanding, convenience and competence, information and wisdom. And this is why foundational learning remains central. Foundational learning has to do with the core, literacy, numeracy. That's what I'm pushing for today, and that's what, as educators, we should be looking always forward to bolstering. Literacy and numeracy, they're not minor basics. Yes, we have AI, yes, we have technology, yes, but those are tools. We cannot forget that the infrastructure of learning and empowerment is that around literacy and numeracy. With those two kinds of awareness in literacy and numeracy, we're going to find that our girls can read with confidence. They can gain access to every subject, every scholarship, every contract that they will move on to get in their worlds of work, every policy, every argument, every possibility. And she will need these in order to navigate this future. So when a girl at St. Andrew High School reasons with numbers, she gains agency. When she can interpret data, Kiva talked about data driving instruction and decision. So when our girls can interpret data, detect false claim, manage money, assess risk, understand evidence, run organizations, and make decisions with precision, they are doing tremendous work, not guesswork. And that is why literacy and numeracy are important. And so in this 100-year-old institution, we are still in the business of preparing our younger sisters, laying foundations for them over 5 to 7 years if they move on to the sixth form after fifth form. We're laying strong foundations for them to be ready for the years ahead and for them to fill those capacities of employment, entrepreneurship, and leadership. So let me say it plainly, in this digital age, using the digital tools in education to support foundational learning will show our girls that with literacy, they have a voice. With numeracy, they have power. Yes, digital tools can amplify learning, but they cannot replace comprehension. AI can accelerate tasks, but it cannot substitute for judgment. If the foundation of our girls at St. Andrew High School is weak, the technology is only going to magnify that weakness. So then, the temptation is there, for us to forget about the reading, the writing, the reasoning, and the so-called soft skills, which some people see as old-fashioned. But I would want to say that we should not embrace that thought. That's actually a mistake. And in this time, the World Economic Forum, they reported that in addition to analytical thinking, the most sought after skills for employers, for big institutions, organizations, the sought after skills are those connected to creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, curiosity, lifelong learning, leadership, and social influence. In other words, the future is not asking us to choose between technical competence and human depth. It is actually asking us to do a bit of both. And so that is what we must do. We must strengthen our students. I was so pleased at the conference, the CXC conference over the past 2 days with delegates from across the Caribbean and the world. And at the conference, in the big moments, I saw some girls walk in, and these girls, they performed their dance super well. They performed their musical ensemble extremely brilliantly. And the proud moment was that these girls were from St. Andrew High School for Girls. Everybody's talking about the St. Andrew girls. You were awesome. And it's because of the legacy of this institution that has been built over the past 100 years and so many more to come. So then, in terms of our girls building on that strength, I want to encourage that, firstly, even in this time of AI, deep reading and critical comprehension we need to make sure that we keep those at the heart of our teaching. We also have to ensure that reasoning and judgment remain strong so that students can distinguish between evidence and assertion, make decisions, defend decisions. Also, clear communication. The St. Andrew girl is that clear communicator, whether she's writing, whether she's speaking, whether she's listening and giving back in terms of feedback, persuading the St. Andrew High School girl of 100 years and continuing on will be that clear communicator. The creative and the originality need to be present, and as I told you, we saw it in the St. Andrew High School dancers and musicians. Ethical discernment, that is going to be so much more important in this AI period. It's one of the most important questions that young people will have to face, and not only face it, but they have to ask themselves, should I do it and at what cost? The relationship and collaboration also need to be nurtured, and if we focus on nurturing these skills, we're going to find that our students, our young women who leave here, they are powerful. So then, what education must do now? Okay? If we're leading with vision, then we must evolve in a couple of ways. The first way is that we must become more authentic in terms of how we demonstrate our understanding, also in terms of how we assess our students. Our assessment will need to be more authentic assessment kinds of tasks and activities. Secondly, we have to ensure that our teachers are supported and developed during this time of change. I know that St. Andrew High has teachers at the heart of what they do. I was a teacher here for a number of years, at least 5. And I think that was my best growth moment in my life under Ms. Sharon Reed as principal. Those 5 years shaped me. People say, you know, when you leave St. Andrew High, from being a teacher, you can do anything. And that is true, absolutely true. It's that shaping ground. And next, we have to ensure that we keep a pace with what is happening in the world of education. My job at the Commonwealth of Learning as the advisor for the Virtual University for Small States across the Commonwealth, it's not an abstract job. I do this every day where I need to keep a pace with what the ministries in the different small states need in terms of teaching, learning, education, and we help those ministries and institutions to build capacity of their staff. And so it's that kind of capacity building that we need to look forward to as we embrace AI and embrace it in teaching and learning and embrace it in all the changes that it will bring to our students. How are we going to ensure that we know what is needed, and how do we continue to build the capacity of our students, our teachers, and by extension, St. Andrew High School for the next 100 years? So, how do we bridge the gaps, the emerging gaps? We teach girls to use AI as a tool, not as a crutch. Certainly, in brainstorming, in checking, in drafting, in understanding, encourage them to use it because they are the ones who will have access to opportunities when they are at the forefront of knowing how to use AI well. It's not something that they should be shielded from or protected from, but they should be taught how to use AI ethically. We also need to protect our culture of reading. It's going to be hard. Students from internet became the thing. Reading became a different kind of pattern. Persons don't read in that linear way from start to end. They skip, they jump, they move with the clicks. And so reading has changed in its execution and also a little bit in its benefits. We have to get students to come back to the true benefit of reading, that with reading, they learn to be critical in their thinking around what the information that's being shared with them. With reading, they pay attention to the styles and structures of how writers do it best. You read so that it's not just for content, but you're reading to see how you can expand your knowledge and, build capacity and to become that learned individual who can swim and exist in the world. So we cannot forget that culture of reading, and the student, the girl, the young woman who is reading is that young woman, that student, that girl who will stand out miles above others. We need to also build, thank you, we need to also build mathematical confidence through meaning. We talked about literacy and numeracy. When you look at the CXC examination results for the last 10 years, mathematics has had a dismal and abysmal performance in terms of, how students do, how they do in mathematics. How well, I don't even want to say well, because the statistics show that the pass rate is consistently below 50% over the last 10 years. In just one case, they had a little bit over 50, a 50 point something. And that's not encouraging. We have to get back to the place where our students can build their mathematical confidence through meaning. And we have to think about how to teach mathematics differently so that our students can grasp and understand it and succeed. It is not impossible. Others are doing it, and the St. Andrew High School girls can do it also. There you go, and they will continue to. All right, but we have to just keep at it. And then finally, we need to connect learning to real life, real issues, real data, real service, real leadership. When we look across the landscape of the curriculum, we have to see how all of the subjects come together to help our girls to be prepared to perform in the real world. We are going to strengthen mentorship and belonging, and we're going to also get our students to grow to become that example, to be the encouragement, the correction, that community. And the last thing in my note, my keynote today, has to do with the power of sisterhood. Over the last 100 years, looking towards the next 100 years, seems like a long time, and yet, the years just compressed and they went by quickly for many of us. But the St. Andrew High School, we can speak about the power of sisterhood irrespective of your cohort. You're going to find that it's a preciousness that you carry with you, and you'll never lose and never should think about losing. It's this, it can be a little bit sentimental, but it's serious. It's a serious issue about how, as a family, we're strengthened by our community, and that community includes our founders, our principals, teachers, old girls, parents, and students. And together, we hold up the school across generations. And so, I just want to say that I am bolstered by my sisters in my year group. I'm bolstered by the sisters in other year groups. Jennifer Knight, Professor Knight, spoke about the strong friendships that go on for decades. And so we want to celebrate that togetherness, the ways in which as sisters we grieve together, we advise one another, we connect, we correct, and we carry each other through seasons of pressure and change. And that is what is truly important about us, that across the generations, St. Andrew High School has built not just graduates, but networks of loyalty, confidence, and mutual strengthening. So we want to say that, what does it look like for the next century? We're looking towards women who can use technology with intelligence, never ruled by it, women who can read deeply, reason clearly, and communicate persuasively, Women who know that efficiency is not necessarily the same as excellence, and that they hold ambition and integrity together, and they build and they innovate and they serve. And it's about women who understand that leadership is not only about visibility, but responsibility, and whose competence is matched by their character, and whose achievement is matched by humanity. So thank you, and we just want to say, let's continue in every generation and to call our young women into the highest promise of the life more abundant. Thank you.